Welcome to Monday Markers with Charlie. This is our 11th program, and it's dealing with the Morewood Massacre of 1891. Henry Clay Frick's close alliance with Andrew Mellon, his strained partnership with Andrew Carnegie made him a millionaire at the age of 30 and one of the 20 richest Americans of all time. A beneficiary by marriage of a substantial fortune based on the old Overholt whiskey, he invested his money in the rich coal fields around Connellsville, whose low sulfur coal led and was essential to the adoption of Bessemer furnace and open hearth furnace technology by Carnegie Steel. Frick vigorously pursued the importation of large numbers of Slavic people, referred to as Hungarians or Hunkies, because they came from the Austro-Hungarian Empire to work in his mines and on his ovens. Most of these were not ethnic Hungarians, but Slovaks, Polish, Croatian, and Rusin, most of whom were Catholic, but also substantial numbers of Orthodox, Russians, Serbs, Bulgarians, Ukrainians. Their massive importation to work for very low wages in conditions amounting to medieval servitude displaced higher-paid English and Welsh miners and caused tension with these earlier settlers. An elaborate system of near total control over the immigrant workers extended from their wages, hours, and working conditions to their housing and to the company stores where they shopped for the necessities of life and accumulated debt that locked them in place, giving meaning to the term wage slavery. The coking furnaces ran 24 smoke-filled hours a day, and most coke drawers worked 12-hour shifts 7 days a week, a pattern that Frick would help impose on labor at Carnegie Steel and Homestead. With near complete corporate control, unions made slow progress, but rebellions broke out. 1886, 91, and 96. United Mine Workers waged unceasing struggle for recognition in Somerset County and only truly succeeded until coal, field, and steel mills were organized simultaneously in the 1930s. On April 2nd, 1891, 9 weeks after the massive explosion at the Mammoth Mine, where 109 were killed, striking coke workers marched in the pre-dawn darkness to call out miners who supplied the coal for their furnaces. They were stopped by sheriff's deputies who opened fire on the marchers, killing 7, with 2 more dying later from gunshot wounds. A state marker was placed at the scene of the shooting, not far from St. Russ Gibbons first heard about the Morewood Massacre from an old miner when he was on a picket line. He was determined to tell those stories of labor struggles that had been buried and forgotten. Former communications director of the United Steelworkers and a founder of both the Pennsylvania Labor History Society and the Battle of Homestead Foundation, and my partner on a dozen or more Pennsylvania labor history marker proposals, he wrote about Mammoth and Morewood marker dedications in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, saying, "While virtually every southern town of any size has a monument or marker commemorating a failed rebellion against the United States and implying that the good guys lost, events such as Mammoth and Morewood have been consigned to oblivion. The shame is that we celebrate and involve workers only on a holiday and every 4 years during an election. But the needs of working people are used, misused, and distorted. Only when the Mammoths and the Morewoods, the dark side of our history, are recognized and understood, will the struggle of working people have real meaning. Along with the 2 Pennsylvania State Historical Marker dedications, a ceremony was held at St. John's Catholic Cemetery to dedicate 2 stone grave markers. By studying the records and the adjoining graves, we clearly identified a long sunken trench where the remains of 79 Catholic immigrant miners were buried in a common grave. A smaller depression nearby, we believed, held the miners killed by the sheriff's deputies. We placed appropriate stone markers at the 2 sites. Russ Gibbons was the founding president of the Battle of Homestead Foundation, which was organized to commemorate the centennial of 1892 Battle of Homestead. An important characteristic of the Homestead strike was the degree to which the 20% or so of the workforce, which by then was already Slavic immigrants doing the lowest jobs, who spoke little English, but the extent to which they remained faithful to the overwhelmingly 2nd and 3rd generation Irish leadership of the strike, who held skilled positions in the mill and earned substantially more than the labor folk. The so-called hunkies knew Henry Clay Frick. They knew his mines, his furnaces, his company houses, his company stores, his deputies, and his agents. If Frick broke the union at Homestead, they knew the price. Low wages, the 12-hour workday, 7-day week, and the absolute and arbitrary power of employment at will.